The Broncos are heading to the Combine next week, and with no first or second round picks, maybe not as much buzz about the prospects heading to Denver, but we can still learn some things from George Paton and Sean Payton while they're out there in Indianapolis. Welcome into the studio. I am Phil Milani alongside Sidney Jones and Eric Dalala. Guys, we'll at least hear from George Paton next week out there at the Combine. What are some of the things he's going to get hit on during his press conference? What are you hoping to learn from his availability out there?
Well, Phil, I definitely think he'll talk about the team's needs, what his top priority is in free agency throughout the draft. So I think that's number one. We talked last week about different position groups that they need to add to offensive line, pass rushers. So I think he'll address some of those situations at the Combine. I think another thing is a lot of free agents this year and a lot of, decisions that this, organization has to make. The big one I think of is Draymond Jones, whether they're going to give him a new contract or look to put a franchise tag on him. So I think that'll be something he talks about too. And another thing that maybe not a lot of people are talking about, but maybe they'll look to pick up Jerry Jeudy's, fifth-year contract option. So that's something else too. And I think something else maybe is how he's going to approach this draft. We talked earlier in the week about, not having a first or second round pick, and with Sean Payton now here, how he'll kind of approach the draft with him as well.
Yeah, and when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, he was like, look, we're going to be aggressive in free agency. And then he said that really anything is open with regard to the draft. Eric, what are you looking for out of George Paton when we go out there to Indy?
Yeah, I think Sidney hit on a lot of it. Another option with Draymond Jones, of course, is just to let him walk. If you aren't able to get the right contract worked out with him, would probably work out well in your favor from a compensatory draft pick standpoint. I don't know if we'll hear on the Jeudy yet. They tend to like to keep those things close to the vest until after the draft, but Sidney, someone's going to ask, so you're right there. And then just, other free agents, Dalton Reisner, what's his status? And then this is always a good opportunity for the first time to kind of hear what's going on with some of these injured players. Javonte Williams, how is he progressing in his rehab? Is he on track to participate in OTAs in the offseason program? Tim Patrick's another guy that can be mentioned. And, Ronald Darby, he kind of got lost in the shuffle as the season went along, but obviously a starter for the Broncos that went down. Damari Mathis played so well that you kind of wonder what is Ronald Darby's status heading into the 2023 season. I think that's something that could be addressed too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with this Broncos roster, definitely in a fluid state. What do you think about Jerry Jeudy, Sidney? 67 catches last year, nearly 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, probably a career year. Things started to head in the upward trajectory for Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, definitely. It was a little bit of a shaky start for Jerry at the beginning of the season, but, like you mentioned, did really well towards the end of the season. So, like Eric mentioned, we won't know for sure if they, will look to give him the fifth-year contract option. So, I think Jerry is a key contributor on this offense. I thought he did really well towards the end of the season there, and he has so much potential. So I think under Sean Payton, he could do some really great things.
Yeah, the way I look at it is Jeudy had 67 catches on 100 targets. As comparison, Michael Thomas in 2019 with the Saints, the last year he was fully healthy, 185 targets. So you talk about running the offense through one guy there. That's what Michael Thomas was for the Saints, and that's what I think Jerry Jeudy could be for this Broncos team. You mentioned Draymond Jones, Eric. That franchise tag could be around $19 million for next season. Do you think that's something that the Broncos are willing to invest in him?
I don't know, Phil. That's a lot for a defensive end. Certainly, Draymond Jones is a really good player, but we saw he didn't have the numbers there late in the year. And so you wonder, after Bradley Chubb leaves, he doesn't have quite the same production. Is he a guy that can be the top pass rusher on your team? If he is, if that's what the Broncos view him as, then by all means, apply that franchise tag, keep him in Denver, even just give yourself some more time to work out a deal. If you don't view him that way or think you need another piece around him to make him as productive as you need him to be, then I don't know if, it always comes down to the finances, right? In this business, it is a business. So we'll have to see if that works out for Draymond Jones. Certainly the way the season ended, not ideal for anybody, the Broncos or Draymond Jones. You mentioned the money. I think for Jerry Jeudy, it works out a little bit nicer. It's down there in the 12, 13 range. The only thing with him is some coaches like to motivate their players by not picking up that fifth-year option. Who knows what Sean Payton's strategy is here? Maybe say, I want you to prove it for me on a contract year.
Back to Draymond, missed the final 4 games last year and only 1 sack after week 8. So 6.5 for the whole season, but just 1 after week 8. So not the finish that Draymond was hoping for last year. But we'll head to Indy, and hopefully we'll get a clearer picture for where things stand for this Broncos team as they continue on into the offseason. That's going to do it for us. For Eric Delisle and Sidney Jones, I'm Phil Maloney.